Well, they are very much looking towards the future. More young players involved, Alex. Cahill and Vardy no longer available to Gareth Southgate. You know, extreme circumstances accepting. But does it look as though this is building a squad for the future?
Yeah, and I like what Gareth said there. It isn't about standing still. Yes, we did well, but what next? How do we improve? But then when you look at it, they did well. They got to a semi-final. So you don't want drastic change, but it's building on those foundations. So it's adding the likes of Gomez, who's been in the squad and done really well before, but bringing him back into an environment and looking forward to the future.
It's a rare competition when England don't come back and have root and branch dissection of what's gone wrong within the whole structure. It's just tweaking, isn't it?
And it's good. Like I said earlier on, I'm pleased that Gareth now has given himself the kind of time, and everybody's patient with him in what he's trying to do with the youngsters. And there's people that he has put in the squad that people will say, well, why have you put him in and not him? And I think that he's given himself, like I say, the leeway to carry on doing what he's doing. There's a vibe and a culture in the squad of the togetherness and a camaraderie, and the age and the youngsters coming through together, all coming up together. And I think that he's introducing them slowly, and he's going to probably ease a few out slowly, but you don't want to lose that, what you've already got there, by taking 4 or 5 out because they're not playing in their current teams, and then bringing a load of new ones in, because it might just upset the apple cart in respect of what they've just done.
I think this is the easiest bit for him now. I think the hardest bit was done at the start. You know, your senior internationals, actually dropping them from the squad and having that chat with them and saying, right, OK, your career with England is coming to an end, or players playing their way out of the squad. I think this is the best part and probably the most enjoyable part from him. He's cleared the decks to a certain extent, so he's made room for the younger players to come through. You know, when you're talking that your oldest player is 30, you've got 15 players under the age of 25, this is what he wants to do. You know, he's come through the ranks at England, obviously been with the 21s. He's seen these players progress. He's not just only got his eyes on these players now. He probably knew the majority of them when they were 17, 18, 19 years of age, and he's now, I think, enjoying the fruits of his labours in terms of the hard bits that he had to do at the start. And
I think it's like what Wrighty just touched on as well. He's built that culture. It's clear now what players have to do, yes, on the pitch as well, but being in an environment, what Gareth Southgate's built, the connection with the fans, the way he's going to play. And it's given players that are on the fringes, maybe not in yet, they're excited. They want to be a part of this new-look England team.
I think the big thing is as well, obviously, us three, we've all retired from playing now.
I've not officially retired.
You've not officially retired?
Not officially retired,
you got a chance then, yeah?
Especially from England. I know AJ ain't on my side, but I've not officially retired from England. That's why I'm seeing Cahill and Vardy retiring, but not retiring. You know, what's all that about?
But I think when you look at older players, for me, when I got to a certain age, domestically playing, you didn't want to have to learn a new way. Whereas I think these young players, they're young enough to still be shaped by Gareth Southgate, as in terms of the flexibilities, in terms of the system that he wants to play. And I think that's such a bonus of having young players in the squad as well that aren't set in the ways, are open to change. And you look at all football now is about being flexible, plays in different positions, whether it be the national teams or the domestic teams. And the younger players you've got in the squad, the more open to change they're going to be as well.
What else as well? You know, people like Chilwell from Leicester and you know, Maddison, who's really started really well at Leicester. I think that they will be chomping at the bit to get in there, and maybe them not being in this one is not such a bad thing, simply because, you know, they will realise they have got a chance, and when they do get in there, then it's up to them to stay in there. And once they get in and get amongst the vibe of the guys, what's happening there, which Gareth is building, I just think it's only going to be better for us. I think that those guys just on the fringe of it now, Dan, Alex, is just be patient, because your chance will come, because Gareth will promote youth and he will bring you in.
For you two, a question specifically for the both of you, do you think there's a freedom now amongst the England players that probably hasn't been there for quite a long time? There's always been this huge pressure on them to go and achieve something. And because he's brought the average age of the squad down, because he's bringing in fresh players, younger players, the expectation level seems to have come down a little bit. And because of that, they can go and express themselves and play with the freedom. And
add to that the fact that they're young, confident. There's a lot of, you know, the social media side of it. You can see the confidence of the team. You can see, I love the England social media and stuff where you see constantly seeing stuff what's going on with them. And what they've got is that confidence with the low expectation in respect of what we're meant to do. Then we go and get to the semi-finals, so the expectations go up a bit. But the fact is, the pressure on them isn't as intense as it was. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
And also, it's a freshness. He's given the players accountability accountability as well. He's given them, they're coming up with their own standards of rules, what they have to be as an England player in that environment. And there's a real connection between just one team. It's not the management and the staff. They're all in it together. And what he's created as well is healthy competition in that team. So when you look at the likes of the new players even coming in, the defenders, Luke Shaw possibly could go into maybe the starting lineup. But then when you look at the rest of that back line, they performed well in the World Cup. So the likes of, we're saying Gomez, yes, he deserves his place, but he knows he has to play really well to even get in that starting lineup now.
Creating the space for those players to come into the squad, has it helped? You talked, Danny, about the hardest part of Gareth Southgate's job, arguably being phasing out the more established players. Will Jamie Vardy and Gary Cahill have taken that decision for him in terms of the players who are missing? Nick Pope, OK, he's not in there from the World Cup because he's got an injury, but in terms of maybe Phil Jones and Ashley Young, does it tell us anything about where their plans
possibly
are?
he does. He wants to bring, it's obvious once again, he wants to bring the average age of the squad down, and like I say, the reason I believe now that the hardest bit for him is in terms of dealing with players is because at the start of his international career as the England manager, he's had to deal with players that have been there, done it, you know, got the names and won numerous amounts of trophies, and they've gone out of the squad now. And I think a lot of the players when you talk about England and generations gone by, I think we look and we go, right, there's 3 or 4 standout players. You know, the Rooneys, the Owens, the Beckhams, you know, players like that over the years, the Scholes. Now, OK, we talk about Harry Kane, but I think this is more of a collective than a long time, and that's only gonna create a fantastic dressing room as well. And you have to give Gareth Southgate great credit because he's created this, and that's why I say that this is the easiest bit for him now, because he's created this, he's done what he's done in the World Cup, and he's stood by what he's saying he was going to do, and he'll be hoping, and everybody will be hoping that this is a group of players now that can grow, gain from experience and be better in each competition.
Of the players that have come into this squad, Righty, is Adam Lallana, or could Adam Lallana be the most significant?
I think that he was somebody that was dearly missed, and, you know,
The old man of the squad.
The old man of the squad. I think that, you know, Liverpool's unbelievable season and the form of the Liverpool players, plus the fact that he was injured for the time he was, I think that really cost us as a national team, because he is that player in that position, what he plays in there, who can get on the ball and make things happen there. You know, he really did kind of cement his place in there until, unfortunately, he got the injury. So that's the kind of player we do need in there, and I could see why, as soon as the World Cup's over, you know what I mean, he's brought instantly back into it. And we'll see the benefits of that, because he is our technical player in that mode.
And I think as well, what people sometimes they don't see is, yeah, OK, he's 30 and everyone's like, well, he's an older player, we should phase him out. But it's players in those environments. So he could actually be a real influence in that environment to help those younger players coming through. And that's the side maybe that we don't see.
Luke Shaw, at 23, seems to have lived several careers already before he's been included in this England squad. Are you pleased for him in a way?
Absolutely delighted. Absolutely delighted. I think that when he got that horrific injury, I think it was against PSV when he was playing under Van Gaal in the Champions League, he was probably performing the best on the pitch. And what I noticed from that game, it was the beginning of the end of Memphis Depay as well. Because them two got a really good understanding and they were both starting to shine, and that's really put him back. And the one thing everybody said about Mourinho, you know, he kept putting him down and what have you. When they got beat by Tottenham on Monday, who was the first player he went up to and put his arm around him? You know, he looks as though he's giving him a little bit of...
Was that, but, you know, you can look into that. When I look into it, I'm thinking, really, why all of a sudden you're going up...
I think the same is right. I'm like, you've gone from that to that right now.
He caned him. That kind of looks good. That, oh, look, he's getting behind Luke Shaw. But Luke Shaw needed that before. And I'm not knocking it at what you're saying there, Dan, but the fact is, he needed that before. Now he's come through. He's come through an unbelievable... amount of
his fitness stats in pre-season were better than anyone else's.
And he came back earlier to make sure he worked on that. He's getting the fruits of his labour now. And the fact is, what he's done in respects of, like, mentally, what he's been through, I think we're going to see a really, really good player from this point on. I thought he was really good again the other day, really going forward positively, and that's what you want.
And it's what England lacked at the World Cup. All credit to Ashley Young playing in that position, but we did lack that natural left footer that gets to the end, like, straight away puts a cross in, and then Harry Kane is waiting for that, and instead you've got Ashley Young cutting inside on his favoured foot.
I think the wing-backs, you know, like you just mentioned, wing-backs are vital, because probably 85% of the teams that England are going to come up against, they're going to sit deep and they're going to sit narrow. They're going to afford you the wide areas, and that's where you need your wing backs. And
quality.
I think with Shaw is a player. I look at him and I think to myself, he could be England's left back realistically for the next 6-7 years. Easily. Because he's a young player, and he's got everything. And hopefully now, fitness-wise, it's all about him staying injury-free, and hopefully he can do that because I think he's an outstanding player.
He also said after the game against Leicester on the opening day of the season, when he scored what proved to be the decisive goal in the end, he said it had been hard for him over the summer to watch the rest of the England players having such... He said, I was there and I was supporting them, but that's what I want to do. I want to be part of that.
Yeah, that's always the one. You know what I mean? I missed out on a couple, and you're somewhere watching it and you're thinking, I could be there, or why ain't I there? The fact is, whether it's injury or form, you're not there. And then you look at someone like him, he should be there. We know the injuries, what he had, and we, trying to get into the Man United side. And you can't totally blame everything on the manager, although the manager's not helped. But he himself needed to be a lot stronger in the way he was trying to get himself going. And it seemed to shy away from it and feel like, oh, everyone's picking on me. Just get through that. And now he's done that. I've seen a different side to Luke Shaw, which I'm really impressed with. And like I said, I just hope he can continue doing it, because I think that he is probably on form our best left back. Danny Rose, he needs to get that form back, but we're not seeing it for a while. I don't know what's happening with Danny, but I saw him again knock the ball around Trippier.
Yeah.
And ran around the other side. I'm thinking, everyone's saying, look at the size of him. I wouldn't want to have a race with him.
It's amazing how many people would have seen that and said them exact things. Because I remember watching it, and it was the first thing, I was like, wow. Trippier's got the pace, and he's got it. Yeah. He's got all the attributes and everything. And like I say, it's about him staying fit now and getting the consistency.
But you know what I like about Luke Shaw as well? Because he has come through all of this, and he's a young player. It would have been easy for him to blame, oh, well, he's not supporting me, he's not doing that. But if you listen...
his agent to get him out.
But if you listen to everything and all the interviews, he's put it on himself. I need to be better, I need to be fitter, it's down to me. And I really respect that, because it's easy to place blame from other young players on other people.
I remember when he signed from Southampton, his first pre-season, I'm going to say, was 2014, I think it was, and he went to America. And Van Gaal, I was there at the time, I travelled over to watch them, and while all the players were training, he was doing his own sessions. Van Gaal came out and said, he's not fit enough. He was the first one to face up and go, I need to be fitter, instead of making excuses. So that tells you a lot about the character of the player. And, he's dealt with this injury, he's come back from that, and you would hope now, he deserves a bit of plain sailing now, and hopefully he'll go on.
And you also get the sense from Gareth Southgate, he talks about young players who haven't been included. There will be fans of their clubs who are saying, why aren't we seeing players maybe getting their opportunity to play for England, maybe Foden, Sancho, Sessegnon, maybe players like that who haven't had their opportunity yet. But you feel as though that there are going to be opportunities for players who can show it for their clubs. And one of the issues that Gareth Southgate talked about was the fact that he's going to have to look outside the Premier League. Obviously Sancho not playing in the Premier League, but players who are playing in the Championship, because the transition from 17 to 21 was the specific age group he talked about. They're struggling to get Premier League football.
It's a big problem. I think you're consistently on a rise, probably, when you leave school from, say, 16 to 19, then you're bottleneck. And there's a few reasons that you're bottleneck. It's either you get stuck as in terms of you get under 20, under 23 itis, so they used to call it reserve itis, where you're playing so many games. You rest on your laurels because you've got your first big contract. Or you're too afraid to take that step and get away from the glamour of the great football club in the Premier League that you're at, and go and get your, go and get yourself a little bit dirty, lower down. And look at the England squad. Even if you look at the England squad now, there's a large percentage of them that actually grew up outside the Premier League. They've had to come up the hard way, or they've had various loans as well. And I think it's key that if you're not playing in the first team at a certain age, you go out and you go and get loan experience, because it's vital.
I suppose, well, that's where we were talking about Ruben Loftus-Cheek, what he'd done last season. He went on loan, he was getting that game time, got into a World Cup. Gareth Southgate put that faith in him. Now he's staying at Chelsea. Is he going to sit on the bench all season? What happens? He needs to be going and playing. Well,
the thing with Ruben is that you're hoping that he's going to try and get football. He's got to get past Jorginho, who they've just bought, Kante. You know what I mean? Ross Barkley seems like he's getting a little bit of a game, but it's a massive decision that Ruben's taken there, and I feel that Gareth picking him will give him so much confidence in the fact that, yes, he's still picked me, because he would have probably been thinking he probably won't pick me now because I'm not playing. What I like about Gareth is And all those young players you mentioned, whether Sessegnon, Foden, Sancho, all of those, and anybody else, like someone like Maddison we mentioned, you know, somebody that's now come in and he's making a little bit of an impression, although it's only been 3 games. The fact is, Gareth will give that player a chance. He will give you a chance. And I would say to these players, just be patient and keep the consistency of your form going in the Premier League. You will get your chance with Gareth, because that's what he will do. He'll give you an opportunity.
I think a problem's been created, though. I think a huge problem has been created. With the rules changing, as in terms of the loan window.
Yeah, I think,
you know, the transfer window now shut in for loans August the 31st. That means that if a new manager comes into a football club, he's got to make a very early decision. He's got to make his decision before August the 31st, or you can't go on loan until January. That's a big problem, because we've spoken about players. Yes, they're playing in the national team now. Players like Harry Kane, he went out and got loan spells. Now, if a manager's not too sure, he's going to say, well, I'm going to look after myself first, and I'm going to keep him. Get past August the 31st, he might be like, I don't need this player.
Yeah.
So what's he going to do for the next 3-4 months? That is a huge problem, I believe, now.
Something about that.
Well, let's take a look at the squad then. But does the 11, or even the match day squad, does that kind of pick itself from what we've seen as it goes along? We know that Jordan Pickford is going to be Gareth Southgate's first choice. Alex McCarthy's come in for Nick Pope. Is that as a third choice goalkeeper though?
Absolutely, I think so at the moment. Yeah, I think you look at Jack Butland and you know the way Stoke are going at the moment. They're obviously going to need to get themselves going, but as it is right now, he'd still be the number 2, Jordan Pickford number 1, and Alex McCarthy will come in there for that experience. Now it's up to him to go back out to Southampton and continue his form, to then try and keep Nick Pope out, or if Jack Butland's not playing well. But now that he's in there, it's up to him to keep it. It's not his problem about Nick Pope coming back. He's got to try and keep the shirt. I think that Gareth's doing well creating that competition in there, in the squad, and that's what we need for people to perform.
Alex, what do you think about the situation now with Gomez coming in? What happens with Walker and Trippier? Because that's interesting. Does he keep Walker as that third centre-back because he's a full-back that they can get out? Or does he say, no, there's going to be competition between Walker and Trippier now on the right side?
Well, that's the great thing. It's that
Having
healthy competition.
Yeah.
Because now Walker's thinking, he's looking over his shoulder. Trippier, yes, you've had a great World Cup, you're playing well for Spurs, but he's thinking, oh, well, there's a new player coming in. They're all on their toes, which is great. But Gomez knows that he's going into an environment, he's not guaranteed a starting lineup because the players ahead of him had a good World Cup. So he needs to earn his place. But this creates such an environment that everyone wants their mate to do well in the England shirt as well. That's the environment Gareth Southgate has created. And actually, it was part of an environment I was in the later stages of my England career. I was a starting right back, but then Lucy Bronze came in, earned the shirt. But it wasn't we were 2 players against each other. She was pushing me, I was pushing her, and then as an England team, we got better.
Yeah.
So it can help this progression of the team to have that competition, particularly, as you say, from players who feel like they're at the same level of their careers as well.
Can I say, though, Lucy Bronze is my favourite. She's
fantastic. She's one of the...
She's sitting right there.
I love Alex, obviously, Alex, but Lucy Bronze is amazing. Just like Marianne Spacey, and you know what I mean?
But
Alex always preferred Brighty.
You know what I mean?
That's the healthy competition.
But that's the competition,
That's the competition. Lucy will be the first to tell you that she knew to get that spot, she had to work so hard to dislodge me. And that made her better, it pushed me on, and then made me retire.
Any big decisions you made to see, and now look what you've done.
I made Alex retire, not Lucy Bronze.
No, you just rubbed salt in the wound afterwards. In terms of the defence, do you think there are any big decisions that Gareth Southgate has to make?
Well, I think...
I'm trying to steer you away from trouble here.
No, the thing is like we mentioned there, Kyle Walker playing on that right-hand side, you know, we did see certain instances where we saw that it wasn't natural to him in the World Cup, and his pace helped him out on many occasions, but you're looking at the way Joe Gomez has started the season, and on that right-hand side of the free, which we've seen him play for England before, he's pretty competent there. So now, like Alex is saying there, is he going to go back to the right-hand side, which I'm sure he prefers, which he does his best work in? And so we've got that competition, which is really good. But in the main, I think you could play Gomez there, you could play Tarkowski in the middle, or Harry Maguire, you could play Tarkowski on the left-hand side, and then Luke Shaw. That looks pretty solid to me.
What I like about the England squad, we talk about the goalkeepers, we talk about defenders, obviously we're going to the midfields in a second. Every single one of them is so comfortable on the ball. They have it didn't take him long. I don't think it took Gareth Southgate long either. He's created an identity. If we were to watch England tomorrow, I'm not saying we'd know the starting 11 would be, but we'd know exactly how they were going to play.
Yeah.
Because there's an identity, and if we can see the identity from watching them, that must be a massive bonus to the players, because they're going in and they know exactly what's expected of them. You know, we've just seen the defenders there. Every single one of them is so comfortable on the ball, and that's what he wants to create.
And then you've got someone like Harry Maguire. You see when he breaks out with the ball, and you've got the pace of Luke Shaw. For cover, you've got the pace of Gomez. You've got the pace of, you know, Kyle Walker. You know what I mean? Then we've got another defender who's then able to go into the midfield, making up, and then we're getting forward. We're starting to create space, and it's very exciting.
Creating space and creating opportunities, and hoping, as you were saying earlier, that Adam Lallana is the player that can provide that extra spark that England maybe were missing in Russia in the summer. And as far as the midfield is concerned, Alex, how do they work in that structure? As Danny's saying, it's such a familiar structure for England, but how do this group of players fit into it?
And it is, and I think this is where Gareth Southgate will maybe look, where I think the defence kind of picks itself at the moment still. You can maybe put some tweaks. It's hard. Do you go with Dyer? Henderson isn't really playing at Liverpool at the moment. Jesse Lingard, he came in the other day for Man United, and I think he done really well. But I think this is the dilemma for Gareth Southgate.
He's got variety. I think that's a huge thing. So if he wants to, dependent on, you know, if he feels he needs to, he can play with 2 sitting midfielders. If he doesn't feel he needs to, he can play with 1 sitting and 2 going. He's got that variety in there of plays, and that's what I think's excellent, is that we talk about systems, we talk about formations, we talk about the tactical side of the game, but you see the top managers, they will change the formation that they play, but they never change their ideals. So the players, one game he may say, listen, we are going to play with 2 sitters, we are going to play 1 sitter, but the ideals of the way he wants to play doesn't change. Yeah. And that's the structure within the
tweaking. Putting players in against the opposition you're playing against. So when we look at Spain, so do you need a more defensive player like a Dyer, or do you need more of an energy in Henderson? So it's actually looking at, yes, we could still have maybe the same system, but just different personnel because that's the opposition we're playing against.
No choices to be made as far as the strikers or striker is concerned, is there?
Well, you look at it, and I have to say, of course, Harry Kane's going to be in there, Rashford's going to be in there. Danny Welbeck's done well to stay in there as well, you have to say. But if I was going to say anything, you know, I'd look at someone like Callum Wilson. Yeah. And I think to myself, you know something, what he's been through in the last few years in respect to Bournemouth when he had that terrible injury at the start of his season once he got in, and he's come back from that, and he's continued to score goals and play well. I think he's somebody that I'd probably say I want to bring him in to see what he's like amongst this calibre of player, just to see how he trains with these guys. Is he one of those guys that can fit in with the culture and the environment and comfortable? Because he's somebody that, you know, people can say whatever they want about how good he is, and I think he deserves a chance, a look, to see if he can be good enough at that level.
When he got his injury, I'm sure he got his injury away at Stoke, at Bournemouth, and it was just before the England squad was announced, and there was a lot of talk that he was going to be very close to that England squad. So I believe he deserves his chance. And the one thing is, I think the beauty of someone like Callum Wilson now, he'll be like, I'll get my chance.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll get my chance. Whereas I think previously there'll be some players that could probably go and score 10, 15, 20 goals, and they probably felt as though they weren't going to get the opportunity. There could be someone sat on the bench now for a Premier League team that could be in the England squad in the next 5 or 6 months. And that is the beauty of the situation that England
I think as well, you've got to look at, even you look at someone like Danny Welbeck. I'm sure people will be saying, what's he picked him for? He knows what Danny Welbeck's capable of. But again, it's Gareth's management of the situation that you have to admire. And he's brought him in. I don't know, you might want to talk to him and say, but the fact is, if I'm Callum Wilson, I would say, right, you know what? I'm going to work even harder now. Yeah. I'm going to really push.
I think the England squad that we're seeing for here will look different the next international fixture because it is still building from a World Cup. So they will go into camp. That hasn't been put to bed yet. So they take lessons, they will move on from that. And I think we're still early in the Premier League as well. So he's still picking players. Yet they haven't been getting minutes, but they were with him at the World Cup. So I think, and then going forward, players will know, OK, I might not be in this one, but I definitely might be in the next one.
But what did we learn? I mean, obviously, as you said, the England squad will be learning a lot and taking a lot away from the World Cup, in which they did reach the semi-finals, but they didn't really set the world on fire, not in terms of performances maybe. So how do they improve on that? Because they'll need to put in better performances more consistently if they want to get through in the Nations League and then progress in the Euros as well.
Yeah, but you look at it and we were missing that that midfielder, that integral, that knitted everything together. You know what I mean? Because we did, in certain games, it did fall apart for us. We kind of broke down in a certain area. We couldn't quite keep it going. But the confidence of people leading into those, because people were saying, yeah, it was easy the first few games, and then the Belgium game, which we lost, you know what I mean, the first decent game we came up against. But we went through those games with a certain confidence. I still, you know, thinking about the penalties just still make me feel good. But the fact is that we built a confidence that if we had that player in there that's able to knit us together, that would only bring out even more in a Sterling going forward, Lingard, you know what I mean, Dele Alli, Harry Kane, because they know that the service is coming and we're going to be continuously on the ball and our team's pushed up and we're going to keep it in and around there. We just need that player, you know, if I'm making sense, to keep the ball there so as we can keep attacking in and around this area and winning it back and attack again. So I think that, yes, we didn't set the world alight with Spain football, tiki-taka stuff, but I think that we played with the kind...
Spain.
But it's that Spain, Barcelona football, right, that we can say that, oh, this was amazing, but we are improving in respects of confidence and trying to play in that way.
I think as well, it's learning from experiences, because when I look at Croatia, they knew moments in games, when to slow things down, when to speed it up. Modric, the experience that he had, when to play those balls, first touch, oh no, I'm going to keep the ball, wait for those opportunities. And I think that's what England will learn as well, being at the World Cup.